Hello and welcome to another of these weird videos that I do. This time I'm not doing any character guide or tutorial for any game mode or event, but this time I wanted to just like showcase and explain a little bit what it is, in my opinion, the best variation of the shock team. A magical damage team based on the shock damage, the damage over time effect. Now, it is not a full shock team because a complete shock team will have four characters, and the four characters should be able to inflict shock or get boosted in using shock. But considering the characters that I have is basically everyone except Evil Eye and both versions of Renner the Useless Traitor. Aside of that, I have every shock team member, and according to my opinion, of course, because I don't have any shock team member maxed like I have, for example, Entoma that is part of the bleed team, or Nigredo that is part of the assist team, and so. And I wanted to share it because just because I wanted. I don't really need any specific reason. And if any low level is watching me or something like that, and might be willing to try it, uh, we'll give it a try because it's a nice team. Our first character, and the reason why I said it is not gonna be like a full shock team and is more like a variant of the shock team, is the SSR Sisita, also known as the Tank Sisita or Tank Shizu, this version of her. Mostly because of her skill set is around all kind of magical damage. Uh, Things that are gonna do synergy between her and the other shock team members are, first of all, the Barrel Surprise passive, specifically the ammo pack. The ammo pack increases the attack and the damage dealt by 12% for one round, stackable up to 2 times. This is usually the barrel supply that you're gonna get as your first round, unless the enemy has something like Warrior Kokyotos that immediately puts a debuff on your team. Unless that happens, that is causing Sisira to put the med pack on your team. Unless those things happen, she's gonna be putting the ammo supply on your characters because they're gonna be full health and ready to attack. So all your other shock team members are gonna have 12% increased damage for one round. Not only that, but also the ultimate, the Fire Owl, she has a chance of basically taunting the enemy, and so she has also a chance of performing support for all of her teammates. Basically, she jumps in the way between the ally that was gonna originally get hit by an enemy skill and the enemy, and she receives the damage instead. But the important part is right here. These 2 points, one targets in coordinate lock or tracking beacon, to debuffs, deal 20% less damage to Sisida, so that means that she is quite resistant as a tank when she ults. And the most important one, targets in the coordinate lock state deal 10% less damage and receive or take 20% more magical damage. This is important because all shock team members deal magical damage. And the shock itself, I know it's a damage over time, but it gets more somehow it gets boosted by lowering the enemy magical defense than the physical one. So we can infer that shock damage is kind of like a magical damage. So we're parting that Shizu in this case will be your first character to play because she has an S on speed, and her arc light alongside her ultimate makes it that she immediately throws the ultimate at the start of the battle, as you can see here. She performs an additional saturated assault, that is basically this, the Fire Owl, with damage reduced by 15%. That means that as soon as the game starts, you have the chance of putting the enemy in the coordinate lock state, make them deal 10% less damage and receiving 20% more magical damage. And if it didn't work it because Shizu has S on speed and all the other Shock team members do not have S on speed, the most they have is A, that means Shizu is gonna be your first character to play, so you can throw the Fire Owl skill again and have another chance of putting the enemies with 20% increased magical damage. Not only that, but if you decide to use her as the captain of the team, you're gonna have this upgrade or this extra perk or extra skill. When she is alive in battle, all the enemy's magical defense decreases by 15%, while all allies' magical defense increases by 15%. That means that everyone on the enemy team is gonna have less magical defense, and everyone on your team is gonna have increased magical defense. This plays into her own ultimate effect because you're gonna be decreasing the enemy magical defense by 15%, and then with the ultimate, you're making them receive 20% increased magical damage, which is pretty great, in my opinion, of course. Now, as the second character that you're gonna be playing on the team, or the second one that is gonna be playing in that same, in the turn, in the order of actions, is an SR character, and it's this one, is the SR version of Entoma. Is she, the way why or the why she kind of plays here and has great synergy is because of her arc light effect with the ultimate and the second skill. As you can see here, she has A on speed, so she's gonna fall behind Cicita at the start of the game because Shizu or Cicita has S. So Entoma's gonna play second turn, but she has S on attack, so she's a heavy hitter. And if we go to the Arc Light, we see that her exclusive effect is that after she uses the ultimate, the Talismanic Maelstrom, she's gonna gain attack boost. Attack boost increases the attack by 13%. That boost is gonna last 2 rounds and increases the damage her next skill deals by 20%. If we go to the skills here, we can see that Talismanic Maelstrom is the ultimate. Basically, the ultimate gives her more speed permanently, gives her another action or another turn, however you know that, and gives her 5 spells or 5 talismans. That is basically her passive. She attacks and she gets boosted the more talisman she has. The important part here is that when you play Entomas, the second character on your team, you immediately throw the ultimate, so you get as much talismans as you can, as many as you can. Then you throw the Thunderbird talisman. It's an area of effect shock skill. She's gonna basically attack everyone on the enemy team. It's gonna consume like, yeah, 3. It's gonna consume just 3 spells, so you can basically spam this skill after you throw the ultimate. You're gonna hit everyone on the screen, doesn't matter if you're facing 1 or 5 or 6 enemies at the same time. She's gonna deal magical damage equal to 100% of her attack, which is getting boosted because the enemies are gonna receive 20% more magical damage thanks to Cicita ultimate. And if she's the captain, that means that they have even lower magical defense than usual. So this 100% attack, it's gonna look like more. Not only that, hitting them grants 100% chance of inflicting shock that lasts 2 rounds after dealing damage. I don't know why he the text is incomplete, but here on the level 5 you can see that is complete that text. So uh, basically what you're gonna deal with this character is, if you can, get as much effect precision as you can on this character, because that way she's gonna be able to guarantee putting the debuff on the enemy, in this case shock. You play Cicita, you throw her ultimate after her advantage of the ultimate activates. Then when it's Entoma turn, you throw her ultimate, that will activate her arc light. That means that her next skill is gonna deal extra 20% more damage. She's gonna have extra 30% attack, and you throw then the Thunderbird Talisman. So you're gonna throw an attack that deals magical damage equal to 100% attack. It's gonna put shock on the enemy, or hopefully it's gonna put shock on the enemy if you have good effect precision. That skill is gonna deal 20% extra damage because of her arc light. And in my case, that she has 6k 528 attack, is gonna have another extra 30% thanks to the arc light. And that is gonna get calculated when you throw the Thunderbird Talisman. So she's gonna be throwing a skill that is more powerful than usual. So you hit everyone on the screen again after Shizu does that. You put shock on all the enemies, or hopefully on all the enemies, and you deal a nice amount of damage. And she still gains, talismans. So you didn't waste all of your talismans in a single hit, like what will happen if you use the first skill instead. Now, the next character that I will say goes into this ideal shock team is Aura, the shock Aura, the Ego Revolter version. This one. Basically, everything about this character is for the shock team. Uh, First off, the passive. Every time the enemy's shock triggers, every time they receive shock damage, Aura turn meter boost by 5%. So, in a good case, for example, when your Entoma put shock on 4 enemies and one of the enemies got a turn, activate shock on everyone, that means that uh, as soon as the first enemy got a turn, Aura is getting 20% turn meter boost, which is honestly is very nice. It's a lot. And also, when she lands a critical hit on a character with shock, she gains a chance of stunning the enemies. So if you go to things like multiplayer or expedition, you can shock someone that you might see like the priority target to kill or to stun, and then you attack with Aura, hoping to stun that priority target and letting you kill it without retaliation. Also, Aura critical chance increases 30% against targets with shock. And because Entoma will already have put shock on all the enemies, you will try to get this Aura to 70% crit. Between everything on relics, awakening levels, arc light, relic enchantments, and so try to get her to 70%. So the passive plays, and she's gonna have a guaranteed 100% critical chance against targets with shock. Not only that, but her critical damage increases by 30% against targets with shock. So if you can also upgrade that, you're gonna have a very heavy hitter against targets with shock. Then the double arrow, a 2-hit skill, and so each crit immediately triggers shock. So if you trigger shock with this skill, you can boost her turn meter even more. Not only that, but if you kill the target with the first part of this attack, the other gets redirected with the enemy with the lowest health in the battlefield. Also, you can use this skill to try and stun an enemy for 1 round, which is nice. If you didn't stun it with the basic attack or the ultimate or whatever, using the passive, you can use this skill to get the stun instead. Or just to trigger shock and boost her turn meter. Then, her ultimate basically is an area of effect skill, deals more damage to the main target than the rest, and she has a chance of inflicting shock. But if she lands a critical hit, she has a guaranteed chance of inflicting shock on the target. Not only that, but you can also boost these capabilities of the ultimate with 4 and 6-star upgrades, and as well as the damage. You can use the skill and trigger shock on all the targets. As you can see here, trigger shock effects on the primary target. If the target has no shock, this does not trigger. And at 6-star, you trigger it on all the enemies. Not only that, she has also a captain skill that when the enemy shock triggers, the damage they take increases by 25%. This, I will say, is more exclusive for, purely the shock team that this variation. In my case, I will be opting more for other captain skills rather than Aura captain skill. Because it's more useful to have increased magical defense and decreasing the enemy magical defense than, just making them take a little bit more of shock damage, because the enemies can purify themselves so they can get rid of shock, and then your captain skill gets nullified and you get no value out of that. But if you are sure that the enemy has no purifying skills, like they don't have this mare that can purify debuffs, for example, then you can go for that and will only boost the shock damage. So all of the other skills like these aura skills or entoma damage or CC ultimate or the next character skills are not gonna deal increased damage because they are not directly shock damage, they're magical damage. But it's still nice to have the captain skill in case that you're facing enemies that you know that they're particularly weak to damage over time effects, or that they cannot get rid of them. Now, the last character on this, let's say, ideal team for the shock team is Narberal. And which version of the three that are here? Well, the original one, the SR Narberal Gamma. On because everything about her is also on the shock team. Her arc light makes it that she, as soon as the game starts, is gonna throw the second skill on a random enemy. So she immediately is gonna electrocute someone, deal a little bit of magical damage, and put shock on them. And also, here says increasing damage of Narberal, of course, to those with shock by 30%. So she is dealing extra damage to enemies with shock. She doesn't have increased crit, but she has increased attack, increased damage, which is nice. Here we can see the passive. Sorry, she gets 2 meter boost every time she attacks a target that is inflicted with shock. Can be from 4 to 6%. So you have another character that gets boosted by attacking enemies with shock, just like Aura. Well, Aura when the enemies get electrocuted by shock. Narbara when she directly attacks them. And she has Beyond Speed, so she's gonna be your last character to play. So having her with a little bit of 2 meter boost is nice, so she doesn't fall that behind. Not only that, but when she attacks someone with shock, she has a fixed chance at max level to dispel one buff from the target, so you can take away their buffs. The second skill, the lightning, is really nice, where basically she deals 100% magical damage that can escalate to 120%, and she has a guaranteed or almost a guaranteed chance of inflicting shock on the enemy. But if you attack someone that already had shock, she's gonna throw this skill again to a random enemy trying to hit someone without shock. But if all the enemies have already been inflicted with shock, she's gonna hit a random enemy, and it can it can even hit the same enemy twice. So you have that chance, and she gains attack boost for 2 rounds. Basically a buff that increases her attack by 30%. Her ultimate also is around shock. She deals magical damage to all the enemies on the team up to 130% of her attack. She shocks all the enemies and makes the debuff last one more round. So if shock usually lasts 2 rounds and you attack the enemies with this before they get a turn, they're gonna have shock for 3 rounds. Or if the enemies already played one turn and they have 1 round of shock remaining, then this ultimate is gonna make it last 2. And if this skill attacks targets that are inflicted with shock, it's gonna throw the lightning blast right after the chain dragon lightning. The lightning blast is magical damage equal to the number of stacks of shock on all the enemies combined, multiplied by 30% of her attack to all the enemies. This basically is that when she throws the ultimate, if enemies already had shock, she's gonna create a little explosion right after her ultimate that deals extra damage. Yeah, of course you have a chance of killing the enemies with that little bit of extra damage. And she also has a captain skill that is probably the best for this team. The enemies with shock have their magical defense reduced by 30%, which is double of what Shizu captain skill does. Basically because Shizu captain skill gives you half the advantage or half the buff that the Narberal captain skill gives you, but instead of that gives you half defense, capabilities. Is balanced between defense and offense. This captain skill is full offensive. So you have to be careful and say when you can go all out, when you can go full offensive with this captain skill, or when you're gonna need a little bit of extra magical defense and use Shizu captain skill instead. Now that I have discussed the team on the skills that are useful here, the order is the next one. You play Sisita, she's gonna throw her ultimate instantly. You decided or not, she's gonna deal. She's gonna do that anyway. Then you're gonna throw the ultimate, just in case that the enemies have enough effect resistance or whatever that they didn't got in the coordinated lock debuff You throw the ultimate again as soon as you get your first turn with Shizu. So you throw that, and the enemies deal 10% less damage and take 20% more magical damage. Then you're gonna get Entoma turn. And when you have the turn with the SR version of Entoma, you immediately throw her ultimate again on her. She's gonna boost herself, she's gonna give herself attack boost of 30%, she's gonna give herself some talismans for her passive, and she's gonna increase the damage of her next attack by 20%. And because the ultimate gives her another turn right after she uses ultimate, then you get to play Entoma again a second time right away. Then you throw on that second turn the Thunderbird talisman. You hit everyone on the screen, you deal a really nice amount of damage to them, and if you had nice effect precision, you're gonna be able to put shock on all the enemies, or almost all the enemies. Then right after Entoma turn, you're gonna be playing Aura. Or usually you're gonna be playing this Aura. Here it doesn't matter if you play first an Arbor and then Aura, or Aura and then Arbor. It's the same. You go hit to the skills. If you want to deal maximum damage, like you know that the priority target that you are focusing in, or the one that you try to kill, if at this point is like half HP or is low on HP and you want to kill it, you throw the ultimate skill because it's what it does the most amount of damage. And if it's 4 stars, you're gonna trigger shock. But if you don't have the confidence that you can kill the enemy, or you don't want to deal as much damage as possible in as little time as possible, if you don't want to maximize damage but you want to maximize utility, then you throw the double arrow to the target that is the most annoying one to you, or the most dangerous one to you. So you stun that target, and you deal also damage to that target. And if you get lucky and get a critical hit, you're also gonna trigger shock on them. So here is gonna depend on what do you prefer. If you want utility to take one enemy turn away, you're gonna stun them with the second skill. But if you want to maximize damage, you're gonna throw the ultimate, and it's gonna be an area of effect skill. So you decide there what skill you throw. And because if you follow my advice here, Aura is gonna have the guaranteed crit at this point. Then in my case, it's gonna come Narvaral turn. And what I'm gonna do, if I want to burst down the enemies, to kill them as soon as possible, I'm gonna throw the Chain Dragon Lightning. So I'm gonna deal area of effect damage, and after that, because the enemies already have shock, Narvaral is gonna throw another little explosion right after. But if I want to maximize damage, that if I know that on this first turn of Narvaral, I'm not gonna have enough damage to kill the enemies, either the one that I'm targeting or the entire team in general. If I know that I can't kill them and the enemies might heal right after her turn, mitigating or nullifying part of the damage that I'm dealing to them, instead of the Chain Dragon Lightning, I'm gonna throw just the Lightning. The second skill, I'm gonna aim it to the priority target, so I deal damage first to that objective, and it has a chance of proccing Aura Assistant because she has a little bit of assist rate. So if I target the priority target, there is a chance of Aura helping Narvaral to deal more damage. And because the enemies already have shock, if it wasn't because of Entoma, it's gonna be because of Aura. But it's gonna be sure that you're gonna put shock on the enemies with Entoma. She's really good at doing that. And because your target is someone with shock, she's gonna throw this skill right away to someone that didn't got shocked by neither Entoma or Aura. Or if everyone is already shocked, she's gonna attack with this skill with the same values of attack someone randomly. But the important part of why you will be throwing Lightning instead of Chain Dragon Lightning is because of the attack boost. Narvaral, after throwing this skill, is gonna gain 30% extra attack. That means that by Narvaral's second turn, when her second turn comes in, you're gonna be able to throw the ultimate that is 100% and 10 of her attack up to 130% of her attack, plus the increased 30% on your attack. So you're gonna be throwing an ultimate that is dealing more damage than normal. And that way you maximize the damage. When you throw this, you're gonna be able to deal more damage to the enemies. And then when you get the second turn of your character, you just throw the second skill of everyone or the other skill that you didn't use. But on Entoma, you try to prioritize just throwing her Thunderbird Talisman. So you keep dealing area of effect damage, you keep shocking the enemies before Aura and Natural turn, so they get the bonuses of attacking targets with shock, and when Entoma gets her ultimate, you use it. Now, the last part is the Supreme Being. The one that I will recommend you is this one, is Ein Soul Gown. Mostly because of the skills as well. First off, I'm gonna recommend you two main skills: the Dragon Bolt and the Negative Burst. The active skills that you're gonna have are these ones, and the passive skills are gonna be Perfect Preparation, which is this one right here on screen, and Esoteric Mastery. Basically, what is gonna happen is that as soon as the game starts, Perfect Preparation is gonna activate and it's gonna give you. Okay, I'm taking this in consideration, thinking that you have the skill at level 3. Okay, if you don't have this at level 3, just skip the first negative burst and go for Dragon Bolt. Okay, but if you have it in level 3, follow what I'm gonna tell you. Perfect Preparation is gonna activate, let's say, and give you 20 action points. That means that you immediately can throw a skill, an active skill that costs 20 action points, or like 2 levels of Supreme Being. And that is exactly the cost of Negative Burst. As you can see here, that is the number 2. Negative Burst basically deals magical damage to the enemies, based on 130% of her attack. It has a chance, almost a guaranteed chance, to inflict damage aggravation on the main target. A damage aggravation is a debuff that increases the damage taken by that enemy by 30%, extra 30%. So you can combine that with Shi's ultimate, you make a specific enemy take 50% extra damage. And also has a chance, a 50% basic chance of putting the same debuff on everyone else on the enemy team. And you're gonna reduce the enemy turn meter by 7.5% for each debuff on the target, and it's gonna reduce it an extra 1.5%, up to an extra 7.5% by each debuff that they have. Basically, when the game starts, Shisu's gonna throw her ultimate. Then I recommend you to throw Negative Burst on the target that you want to kill first. So you're gonna be putting damage aggravation on them. They receive more damage, and they're gonna get throwback 10.5% their turn meter boost. 7.5% because of the skill, that is what the skill does, and an extra 3% because the game throws the enemy turn meter back an extra 1.5% for each debuff. And at that point, the enemy is gonna have 2 debuffs. It's gonna have the target lock and the target coordination from Shizu. That is 2 debuffs, so we add it, so it's an extra 3%. With the 7.5 means 10.5% turn meter that you reduce the enemies from the enemies. That will almost guarantee that your characters are gonna have a turn before the enemies. After Shizu and Entoma, I mean, because Aura and Narberol are kind of slow. A little bit slow, only that. But you're gonna throw this so you can deal more damage to the enemies. You're gonna reduce their turn meter so you play before them. At that point, Perfect Preparation did everything it could because it's a one-time use skill for match. You already used the 20 action points there. You're gonna have the Esoteric Mastery increases all mage characters' damage by a certain percentage. Here it doesn't matter at what level you have it. Only thing that you need is to have it. And because Entoma and Narberol are mages, yeah, Aura is a ranger and Shizu is a tank here, but you have 2 mages on the team, and it's better that the I can be very willful that increases your damage against warriors and rangers because you don't know when you're gonna face multiple rangers or mages on some, game modes and so. But here you can guarantee extra damage for half of your team, for Entoma and for Narberol. And as we saw, both Entoma and Narberol have S on attack. So they're gonna be greatly benefited from this. And this is a passive skill, so they're gonna permanently be dealing extra damage. Not only that, but after you throw the negative burst, if you can or if you want to proc shock extra times, you want it to get activated aside of when Aura can activate it with her skills, aside of when the enemies activate it by themselves by having a turn, you can use Dragon Bolt, and instead of throwing the negative burst each time you have it after the first time, instead you can throw the Dragon Bolt. You can throw it faster than the negative burst, because instead of taking you 20 action points, it's only taking 10 action points. You can throw it more often, so you can spam it. It deals 2 hits of 60% attack to the target each one. That means 120% attack. And you have a 40% basic chance of inflicting defense down on the enemy. Defense down, you decrease their defense by 30%. Not only that, but after using the skill, you have a 40% chance to randomly trigger 1 damage over time effect. So you have 40% chance of making the enemies get their shock triggered again, because with this team you're only inflicting shock on them, so you don't have to worry about accidentally triggering burn or triggering bleed on them. And if it happens, if you actually activate the damage over time effect on them, the enemies are gonna get shocked, and Aura is gonna get her turn meter boosted because of that. So you're gonna play Aura faster than usual. You can use it, as a little bit of extra damage to a single target, hoping that maybe you can get the enemy's defense down, or you can shock them so your Aura plays first them or first on your team, even before, for example, Lentoma, or that you can play just before the enemies. That will be what I would recommend you. In my case, I usually play with the perfect preparation, negative burst, fallen down, and I can be very willful. But I will recommend you for the shock team to play with Dragon Ball, negative burst, perfect preparation, and esoteric mastery. Now, you're gonna throw the negative burst as soon as you can, before even she's ultimate, and then it's up to you if you keep throwing negative burst or if you start throwing the Dragon Bolt. Now, what I'm gonna do is, just to showcase it to you, I'm gonna go here to the Tragicomic event, and I'm gonna go here to the Tome of Answer and go to Heart. I know here the game tells you that you need a combat power of 33k. It's not a lot considering that I almost have 200k, and for example my Shizu has alone 38k, my Entoma 32k, and so you say, okay, you're gonna go to easy mode, right? No, I'm just doing it to showcase you how it works, okay? I'm gonna do it because only my Cicita and my Entoma are very well leveled up. As you can see, my Aura is, yes, level 100, but it's not even 20k combat power, because I haven't maxed her stars, I haven't maxed her accessories, neither her skills, neither the awakening level, I only level her up a little bit to play with her, and so the same goes for Narvel, that is level 62 and has even lower combat power. So what I'm gonna do to showcase you the team is to play in the Tragicomic event, to go to the boss fight on the hard difficulty, and just gonna show you the combination. I'm gonna try to show you 3 cases. The first one is gonna be going all out. That means throwing the ultimates first to the enemies, and then when the enemies are low, because in that boss fight you face enemies, 5 enemies. You face 5. What I'm gonna do is throw the ultimates to try to burst down the enemies, and when 2 or 3 enemies are dead and only there's like 1 minion or 2 minions and the boss, then I'm gonna focus the single target skills on the boss to show you how you can use this team for both single target attacks, so for when you want to prioritize someone and kill it, and area of effect attacks, so for when you want to kill basically multiple enemies at the same time. And I'm gonna be using one of the captain skills. It's gonna be either Shizu or it's gonna be Aura or it's gonna be Narvel. I'm gonna decide in any, like I'm gonna do a match for each captain skill. So on that moment you're gonna see which captain skill I use there. Then I'm gonna go another match with the same composition, but I'm gonna be playing it for more maximizing the damage. You know, I'm gonna try to make more efficiently the ways I deal damage to the enemies. That means that yeah, I'm gonna still be ulting with Shizu. Still gonna be ulting with Entoma, but when I get to Aura, I'm gonna see. Oh, if the enemies are low HP, I'm gonna try to are half HP or less. I'm gonna try to maximize damage with the ultimate. But if the enemies are very healthy, like 70% health or something like that, I'm gonna throw her stuns to, keep the enemies from playing. And then with Narmeral, I'm gonna throw the lightning so I get the attack boost on her. And by next time she plays, she's gonna have an even more powerful ultimate than usual. And then I'm gonna be playing. It could be a third match on the same boss fight, or it could be a third match on the arena. Then I'm gonna be using another of the captain skills that I haven't used yet. And in that specific one, I'm gonna be showing you with the setup of the Supreme one. The first two matches, I already have the idea of how I'm gonna do them. And on those matches, I'm gonna be using my lineup of the Supreme Being, which is basically the I can be very willful passive skill, the perfect preparation passive skill, the negative burst, and the fallen down. So I'm not boosting my mage's damage by 24%, and I do not have the Dragon Bolt to proc shock more often. So you're gonna see in the first match compared to the last one, the difference for when you're boosting your mage's damage by 24% to when you're not doing that, when you're not benefiting them or boosting them. So you can notice what is the difference when you are using a generic Supreme one setup to all the teams for all the teams to when you customize it for the specific teams that you're using. Without anything else to say, because I think I have talked for more than I have intended, uh, I'm gonna leave you the combats. Remember that it's just to showcase, okay? I'm not telling you this is broken, get into the multiplayer and try to beat everyone with this team. No, it's in case that you were wondering what will be the best shock teams or what could be the potential of the shock team or the shock members and so yeah. Maybe if I get maybe other crazy ideas for specific teams, like a specific counter team and so, I'm gonna do this kind of videos where I'm talking about the theoretical part of the teams and them showing them, and I will see what happens. Okay, but for now this is an experiment. Me talking about a specific team, this case the shock team, and I will see what happens. So yeah, enjoy the combats.